What would my idea be for a JJK Part 2? Let's talk about it. All right, first of all, shout out to Joe Mall who asked me this, and thank you so much for the support, man. And as you can see, he said, what would my ideal continuation of JJK be? Whether that was prequel, sequel, video game, or otherwise. And this is something that I have thought about a little bit, especially, back when we got it first announced that JJK was ending. Everyone was hoping like maybe there would be some sort of sequel announcement or whatever. We didn't get that. Might we someday? Maybe, never say never, but I wouldn't think it was on the books anytime soon, at least. But for my money, if we were going to get something, again, I would take anything in an official capacity. But if it was up to me, I would love to see a Heian era prequel just because, so much of the Jujutsu Kaisen lore is based upon back then, the golden age of sorcery. It would even be cooler to go further back than that and get like some origin stuff, maybe with Tengen or Druve or just the three original vengeful curse spirits, maybe understand how curse techniques even became a thing originally. Like, I would love to explore all of that. But me personally, there's just something about a prequel where that like ultimately everything is going to end at a certain status quo because it's got to reach that point for the primary source material. Like any type of JJK prequel, we know how it ends because we know what's going on when JJK starts, right? That's not to say that prequels can't be good. There's amazing ones out there. But for that reason, I think I would prefer a sequel. So you have that big question mark of like, I don't know what might happen here. All right, so for my sequel, I would definitely selfishly love something that gave me a chance to expand upon the things that I wish we had a chance to expand upon from JJK. Meaning the sequel I have in mind would be something set relatively soon in the future after JJK, maybe 5 to 10 years later, where we have, an adult Yuji, Akotsu, Megami, like all of them serving the role that, Gojo and Shoko and Nanami served, and now being those mentors for the next generation. Now, the MC for our sequel would be a young kid from the Gojo clan who was born without a curse technique but wants to be a sorcerer. He's basically grown up on all of these living legends stories, Gojo himself, obviously, but Yuji, Megami, Akotsu, all of them, right? And his goat would actually be Kusakabe, because Kusakabe also doesn't have a curse technique and yet became a very powerful grade 1 sorcerer. So this is a Gojo clan member with nothing special about him. He does practice jujutsu, but again, no curse technique, nothing extraordinary, right? But then boom, one day, this kid, let's call him 14, 15, 16 years old, just manifests the six eyes. And everyone is like, whoa, what the hell is happening? Because there seems to be precedent for this in JJK. And this is one of those things that I wish we had gotten some more exploration of. Because if you recall, we know that Kinjaku, way back when, actually took out the Six Eyes user right when they were born as a way to have them not interfere with his plans, right? But we're told that even though he did that, lo and behold, when the merger came, a Six Eyes user appeared. Now, to me, that means that one must have just manifested, because obviously a baby wouldn't have been able to stop Kinjaku, right? So the same thing is at play here. For some reason, this kid who's already lived for 15 years manifests the Six Eyes. He still doesn't have a curse technique, but just the Six Eyes. And I think that would be a really cool central mystery to be like, why is this happening? Like, what's going on here? And I think it would be incredibly fun to play with an MC that doesn't have a curse technique. Again, a lot like Yuji, but in this case, like, he wouldn't even be getting one. It would just be all of the cool things you could do with sorcery if you had the Six Eyes. Now, I haven't put any real thought into this. This was more so just like fun, random ideas I had back when JJK was ending. So, this isn't fleshed out. This isn't something I'm actually working on or anything. But in my mind, kind of the why for why the Six Eyes manifested and kind of like the overarching big bad would be Kinjaku. And it would kind of, fill in just what the hell was happening here. And I think this was just kind of a gag. But this would be the explanation. Maybe Takaba, in his desire for having a comedy partner, used comedian to bring Kinjaku back. And, after X amount of years or something, maybe he finally was able to come out of Takaba's spell. Again, you can do whatever you want with this, but ultimately Kinjaku would be back and he would once again be trying to facilitate and finish the merger. And that being on the precipice of happening is what caused the Six Eyes to manifest once more. That same connective tissue of destiny that the Six Eyes are meant to help Tengen and help society, continue on. And Kinjaku now representing that threat again, the Six Eyes are needed once more. Now, in my mind, this isn't something that would be revealed in the story till at least a little bit down the road, because again, I think that mystery of why the Six Eyes had come back would be interesting to play with. And honestly, it doesn't even need to be Kinjaku. That was just kind of a fun way to loop in the Takaba stuff. But selfishly, I would like it to be Kinjaku just because I would love to learn more about him and more about his past and all of the different things he did get up to back then, So having him re-enter the story in a sequel would give a chance to flesh some more of that out. I also just think it would be really cool to see Yuji going on to honor Gojo's legacy by teaching the next generation. The same way we got the tease of with him in the final chapter, like sharing some empathy with that sorcerer who had the crazy looking face and, wanting to help him as opposed to that guy just being like executed or whatever else, right? Also, I think it would be a really cool dynamic for Yuji to be the mentor of a kid that doesn't have a curse technique. Now, obviously, Yuji has two now, but, he could still be able to relate to the kid a lot, especially being like thrust into this madness with the Six Eyes the same way he was kind of thrust into it with the Sukuna finger situation. Plus, it would be cool to see how Okotsu would be as a mentor, and Kusakabe, I'm just imagining as like a curmudgeonly old like grump who wouldn't be too old by this point, but again, being our MC's like goat, it would be fun to see how they might interact. Jamal, thank you for the question, man. It was fun to kind of parse this out in my brain because I never really thought about it too much other than the initial idea. But yeah, I just think it would be really fun to have an MC that had the Six Eyes, but no curse technique, and get a chance to explore some of these interesting mysteries that were left open-ended from JJK. That being said, it would also be really cool to get a series on Yuta's grandkids. It'd be fun if he was heavenly restricted and she had the 10 shadows, and maybe we could finally get confirmation on that fun headcanon theory that the two of them together could tame Maharaga. But there's definitely so much potential within Jujutsu Kaisen for whichever way you would want to go. There's so many interesting things to explore still. Change shirts? What are you talking about? No, I didn't spill water all over myself mid-recording. What? Anyways, while we're on this subject, I also wanted to respond to this comment I got from Rondell, which asks how satisfied I was with JJK's ending. And this is still very much a polarizing subject, even months and months later. Even on every video, I'll get one or two comments talking about, still talking about JJK, we're done with that. It was horrible. The ending ruined it, etc., etc. But even back when JJK ended, for those of you that were watching the channel back then, I called it a good ending. Is it a perfect ending? No, but I thought the writing was good throughout, and that continued with the ending. I think most people... And okay, I shouldn't generalize like this, but I think a lot of people, I'll put it that way, that say JJK's ending was trash, say that because things didn't happen the way they wanted them to happen. But we're not going to get into that whole discussion here. So do I think it was a good ending? Was I satisfied with the ending? Yes. But on the same page, that doesn't mean that there aren't things I wish had been explored or fleshed out more, hence this video, right? That's what we're talking about as the basis for my sequel idea. And I think both things can be true. I also don't think because every little thing didn't get fleshed out or get an answer that means it's bad or was bad writing. I don't think most people know what a plot hole is these days. But anyways, again, polarizing subject. I'm happy with the ending, but I also would have loved for JJK to be 50 more chapters with other things explored more, and I think both can be true. And then finally, Rondell also asked me if I thought we would ever get any answers to some of these questions we still have about JJK. And I would answer that with a cautious but optimistic yes. Now, will we get an answer to every little thing that people wonder about with the ending? No, but I do think we will get further clarifications as more interviews and fan books come out. And we know that next week there is an interview from Gege coming out about Gojo and Sukuna's fight. And I know that based on some news from last night, there's 2 more interviews coming out dating all the way into 2026 where he's going to be talking about other aspects of JJK. So we'll definitely have more to come. Anyways, that's going to do it for this one, y'all. Thank you so much for watching, and I would love to hear your thoughts and ideas on the sequel.